Back to the Stephen A. Smith Show. Before I get on out of here, I had to talk about a story that's very very important. And albeit indirectly, it involves Caitlin Clark.
Stephen A. Smith basically just said the comment section out loud, and the WNBA is not going to like this tune. These rumors have been swirling for nearly 2 years now. We have heard stories of hostility, jealousy, and even a clear effort to keep the game's biggest star from competing. But the latest developments involving Nike, Travis Scott, and the Kelce brothers have completely changed the entire face of professional women's basketball. Stephen A. Smith did far more than just defend the Indiana Fever star this morning. Most of us were too afraid to voice our suspicions, but he confirmed them. These days, Sophie and Caitlin Clark are far more than just ordinary basketball players. No amount of public relations can bridge the massive divide between them and the rest of the league because they represent a global economy. If you thought that initial $28 million contract was the big deal, you were dead wrong. In reality, that was only a tiny fraction of a much larger plan. We are witnessing a financial shift that could destroy the fragile WNBA environment, and Stephen A. Smith is shouting, "I told you so." He says it from a high perch. To understand why this week's news is so shocking, we must look at the incident that started it all. That Christmas Day commercial, which went viral online, completely exposed the deep internal tension building up inside the WNBA. While families were exchanging gifts and watching the NBA schedule 3 days ago, Nike dropped a massive bomb that made the rest of the WNBA look like a local recreational league. They launched the From Anywhere commercial, which is a major cinematic advertising campaign to promote her upcoming signature shoe, the Caitlin ones, debuting in the spring of 2026. But the small details are what really matter. Look closely at the people featured in that ad. It was not her WNBA coworkers. Legends like Cheryl Swoops and Diana Taurasi were nowhere to be found. Instead, rapper Travis Scott was there, along with the Kelce brothers. They totally bypassed the standard WNBA scene and became massive stars of global culture. Nike made a clear, calculated decision to place Sophie and Caitlin Clark next to global pop culture icons. Stephen A. Smith says this was no accident. This was a bold declaration. It screams one clear thing: Caitlin Clark and Sophie do not need permission from the WNBA anymore. They have basically outgrown the entire league before their second season has even had a chance to start. Furthermore, Stephen A. asserts that this specific commercial is the ultimate worst nightmare for every single aging guard in the WNBA. They wanted her to pay her dues and wait patiently for her turn. Instead, Nike completely ignored everyone else and simply handed her the keys to the entire kingdom. But because all this jealousy stems from the money, we must look at the numbers to truly grasp the weight of what Stephen A. Smith is saying. When the news of her original 8-year deal first got out, the league's locker rooms were already incredibly hostile. Veterans who had been grinding for 10 years had to deal with a rookie making more in endorsement money than their entire team's payroll. But according to new information coming out of Nike headquarters, that initial $28 million estimate was actually extremely conservative. In the first 3 years alone, the Caitlin Clark signature shoe line could pull in $150 million, according to insiders. Think about that. If you enjoy the content, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. It might surprise you that nearly 83% of you are not subscribed yet. It only takes a second, and it is free. But it means the world to us. Already subscribed? Fantastic. I really appreciate the support. Now, let's get back to that $150 million. The average WNBA player makes about $76,000 a year. Even the maximum compensation is less than $250,000. Stephen A. Smith argues that this massive wealth disparity is the radioactive core of all the tension we are seeing on the court. It is way more than just basketball now. We are talking about a rookie who earns more money from a single sneaker drop than most players will ever see. Stephen A. Smith also points out that human nature is simply indisputable. You simply cannot create that level of economic inequality in a highly competitive locker room without breeding serious resentment. Right here, Stephen A. Smith drops into the conversation with his most dramatic confirmation yet. He went on the record this week to double down on his controversial jealousy theory, making it clear that hostility toward Caitlin Clark and Sophie will skyrocket after this commercial. His logic is simple, but very harsh. Both the women who built this league and the veterans who had to fly commercial and play in empty gyms feel completely overlooked. They feel like they have busted their tails for years, only to watch some rookie walk in and immediately get the Michael Jordan treatment. Smith is warning everyone that those tough fouls, hard checks, and the freezing out from last season were nothing but a warm-up act. Now that she is the official face of Nike basketball, regardless of gender, that target on her back has easily multiplied tenfold. You have to look at the context of Nike's aggressive play here. Trust me, Nike is not some nonprofit. They are a cold, data-driven machine. They studied the TV ratings. They watched the explosive jersey sales, and they saw those massive lines wrapping around the block in Indianapolis. And they quickly realized that Caitlin Clark is an absolute unicorn. Now, while the WNBA league office wanted to distribute their marketing funds across all 12 franchises to promote justice and equity, the executives at Nike were running a totally different playbook. They simply put all of their money on their biggest star. Right from day one, Stephen A. Smith has slammed how the WNBA handled Caitlin Clark's arrival, arguing they completely botched the bag by trying to suppress her fame just to appease other players in the league. This just exposes the league's massive strategic failure. The WNBA tried to be polite, trying to portray the league as a place with many stars because they felt ashamed of the huge discrepancy. Nike basically answered, no, you have one megastar and we are going to treat her like one. Nike sees her as an icon, but the NBA views her as just another rookie who needs to fall in line. According to Stephen A., this entire ad campaign proves the WNBA has completely lost narrative control. The truth is, Caitlin Clark has already outgrown the Shield. When someone like Travis Scott co-signs you, you simply do not need the support of the league's veterans anymore. But let us dive deeper into this narrative of jealousy, which Stephen A. Smith has started calling out with much more specific details. Do you remember all the controversies over the past 2 years? Think back to that Kennedy Carter hip check. Or how about the conflict between Reese and Angel? Remember her getting excluded from the national basketball team? Stephen A. Smith connects all of these dots directly to this exact moment. According to him, all of those occurrences were just symptoms of the same disease, resentment. That basketball team snub in particular looks even more ridiculous in hindsight. The Indiana Fever Committee actually chose to keep the most marketable athlete in the world at home simply because they claimed she lacked experience. Now, that very same athlete is the centerpiece of a Nike ad campaign that completely outperforms the entire marketing effort of the sport. Stephen A. Smith exposed this exact hypocrisy in real time on television. He made sure to emphasize that while the WNBA and their selection committee were busy playing politics, corporate America was playing to win. He saw right through the gatekeepers in women's basketball trying to demean her. They tried to convince her that she was not special. And what was the actual result? She only grew more powerful, wealthy, and famous. Meanwhile, those gatekeepers just ended up looking bitter and petty. Stephen A. Smith's reaction is basically a victory lap. He is telling everyone he warned them they were mistreating her, and now Nike has proven it. With the official release of the Caitlin 1 scheduled for April of 2026, the hype train has officially left the station. Since the actual signature shoe is the most crucial piece of this puzzle, and what fans are desperately waiting to see, let us talk about it. Landing a signature sneaker is the single rarest honor in basketball. Very few WNBA players have ever had their own shoe. Breanna Stewart has one, but compared to Sabrina Ionescu, Caitlin Clark's debut is on a completely different scale. Instead of a typical WNBA sneaker, industry analysts are actually likening this rollout to the legendary launch of the Air Jordan. They are expecting massive lines and a thriving sneaker resale market. Nike's new interlocking C logo is already popping up on billboards and t-shirts all across the country. Make no mistake, this logo is highly significant because it establishes her as an independent, standalone brand. When you look at that iconic Jumpman logo, you instantly think of Michael Jordan, not the Chicago Bulls. And when you see that interlocking C, Nike wants you to think specifically of Sophie and Caitlin Clark rather than the WNBA or the Indiana Fever. This subtle difference pushes the wedge even further. She is beginning to establish herself as a massive brand, regardless of the league she plays in. Stephen A. Smith warns that this level of leverage puts the WNBA at risk simply because they need her way more than she needs them. This brings up a major topic that Stephen A. Smith has never shied away from: race. He has often discussed how Caitlin Clark's race impacts her coverage and the public reaction. He has consistently maintained that the reality of a white player from Iowa being crowned the savior of a league that has been heavily dominated by black women for 25 years is a major part of the reason for all this. Ultraje. And Smith is insisting this uncomfortable conversation must happen in private. The Nike deal, which fully supports Caitlin Clark, only exacerbates the situation. Even though other stars might get less attention, it simply feeds into this narrative of privilege. However, Stephen A. shuts that down by pointing directly to the green. Look, business is business, he argues. Caitlin Clark is putting fans in seats, and she is selling jerseys. Bottom line, she has the highest TV ratings the WNBA has ever seen. Stephen A. Smith says the players should be thanking her for raising the league's wage cap instead of freezing her out. He points out that while a rising tide brings charter flights, better hotel stays, and much greater media attention are clearly helping everyone, these other players are far more worried about who runs the league than they are about having fun. That brand new From Any Place commercial highlights a major cultural shift by bringing in Travis Scott alongside the Kelce brothers. Nike is basically declaring that both Sophie and Caitlin Clark are genuine crossover stars. We are talking NFL fans, hip-hop heads, and even people who have never once watched a single quarter of WNBA basketball. She reaches all of them. This is ultimate marketing. For a very long time, the WNBA mostly advertised to its existing fan base. Sophie and Caitlin Clark just completely demolished that wall. Stephen A. Smith argues that because her appeal is so widespread, she is untouchable. If other WNBA players try to target her or play dirty next season, the backlash won't just come from die-hard basketball fans. It is going to come from the general public. Let's examine how we got here, because this timeline shows it was always inevitable. Once Caitlin Clark departed Iowa, there was an intense rivalry for her services. Even a ruler wanted her. Despite the successful marketing from Adidas, Nike realized they could not afford to lose her. They faced a long process of delaying the shoe launch until the spring of 2026. Every move was calculated, and their goal was simply to increase the tension. They wanted to extend her rookie season and let the stories unfold. They wanted the bad guys to emerge, so that when they finally drop the shoe, the film's climax will take place. Stephen A. Smith claims that Nike played this entire WNBA situation absolutely masterfully. Now, Nike is busy promoting their related products after basically letting the league create all this drama. Enter the Sabrina effect. Caitlin Clark's debut is apparently being prepared with 5 times the inventory, despite Sabrina Ionescu's shoe launch being a massive hit. That is just incredible. Nike is betting that this sneaker will become a lifestyle staple, just like Jordans or Dunks. Once both guys and girls start wearing the Caitlin sneakers to school, to the mall, and even out to the club, she is going to become absolutely ubiquitous. Stephen A. Smith points out that once a player reaches that lifestyle status, they become immortal in sports. LeBron has it, Jordan has it, and Caitlin Clark is next in line. So, what does the WNBA do now? That is the exact question Stephen A. Smith put to his co-hosts. The league is facing a very challenging situation. They cannot simply ignore her and risk losing all that money, but they also cannot look like they are giving her special treatment without completely losing the locker room. Smith put out a warning, or let us call it some very blunt advice for the league: get on board now, or risk getting left behind. He predicts that future negotiations surrounding Caitlin Clark will basically dictate the next television rights deals. The major networks are financing her rights. If she retired tomorrow, the league's entire value would crash. It is a tough reality heading into this next season, but Smith confirms it is the absolute truth. This complex power dynamic is what makes this upcoming season so fascinating. We are about to watch a league try to control a single player whose actual wealth is greater than the league itself. This is a classic power struggle. Stephen A. Smith compares it directly to the early days of Jordan in the NBA, or Tiger Woods on the PGA Tour. The establishment always fights back against any anomaly. They hate it because it exposes their own flaws, but in the end, the anomaly wins out. Nike has put their money squarely on that anomaly. Now, we also have to address those freezing out rumors that came to light last year. In some moments, it seemed like opponents were guarding her with excessive force, refs were holding their whistles, and her own teammates were just freezing her out. Stephen A. Smith believes that this Nike deal will act as a protective buffer. With hundreds of millions of dollars on the line for a corporate giant, the league simply cannot allow their main asset to get damaged. Smith predicts that the officiating is going to be much tighter next season, meaning the league office will likely step in to protect their massive investment. Once that happens and Caitlin Clark starts getting superstar treatment, the tension inside that locker room is absolutely going to boil over. If you enjoy this analysis, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Believe it or not, more than 83% of you watching right now still are not subscribed. It is free and only takes a second, but it genuinely means the world to us. So, did you hit that button yet? Perfect. Thank you so much for your support. Now, let us get right back to the video. Stephen A. Smith pointed out that adding the Kelce brothers to the commercial is another incredibly smart move. The Kelces represent that massive NFL machine, which is the absolute biggest sports organization in the country. By associating Caitlin Clark so closely with Nike, the brand is quietly letting the audience know that she is a massive deal. She is not some niche athlete anymore. She is as big as Sunday Night Football. This pleases the capitalists who want to see this sport grow and prosper. On the other hand, purists who want to preserve the WNBA's unique culture and distinctiveness are totally furious. Smith is firmly standing in support of this growth, saying that anyone who opposes it is a threat to the future of the sport. But what about the shoe itself? Although we have not seen the final colors yet, that interlocking C design gets praise for its clean simplicity and versatility. However, this signature shoe is a symbol of possession that goes far beyond cosmetics. Real equity and ownership are vital in the sports world today. Although details about her royalties are confidential, Stephen A. surmises she gets a very large portion. She could be earning $10 to $15 million a year from shoe royalties alone, assuming she is receiving a typical royalty rate on a product volume that is this massive. That is generational wealth being created every year. When Caitlin Clark enters the arena, she is essentially the CEO of a major firm, and her opponents are like regular workers fighting for a contract renewal. It creates a very strange dynamic. According to Stephen A. Smith, you simply cannot miss this major psychological factor. It is intellectually demanding to defend someone who is worth 100 times as much as you are. That reality completely alters the level of aggression. The entire motivation is shifted. Some players will become smaller, others will try to hack off her head. Smith affirms that this upcoming season will be the most aggressive physical setting she has ever had to cope with, especially since the money is now legitimate. It is no longer speculative. The advertisements are active now. The check has officially cleared. The Nike family is another highly significant piece of this. By signing her, Nike is integrating Travis Scott into their music and entertainment division. Please use the comment area to express your opinions on this. To ensure you do not miss anything, go ahead and subscribe and turn on all notifications. Once you click the video on the screen, we will see you in the next one. Please share your thoughts in the comment section, subscribe, and enable all notifications so you do not miss a single thing. We will see you in the next one right after you click that video on the screen.